How many people reside in the Barataria-Terrebonne estuary? According to the 2000 census report, about 1 million people reside within the Barataria-Terrebonne system. What is the protective value of our coastal landscape features?
A hurricane is a textbook example of a heat engine. It gets its fuel from warm ocean water. As it crosses that threshold into a coastal marsh, it's robbed of that fuel source. It no longer has warm ocean water to build it up. It also has the friction of the marsh plants to deal with, and that tends to slow down the wind. Other coastal features that are generally present in the marsh are ridges. And these ridges stand a little bit higher than the surrounding marsh, and because of that, they can be forested. So there's generally going to be a tree line on a natural ridge, and that's going to really break up that wind as well. As you get further into the estuary, as the hurricane comes ashore, it encounters these cypress tupelo swamps, which are heavily forested, and that really helps break up the wind. So all of these coastal landforms combined give us a great amount of protection naturally.
How much seafood is harvested from Louisiana waters?
Louisiana produces about 75% of all of the commercial fisheries production for the Gulf of Mexico. This is about 1.1 billion pounds, and realistically this is probably a very conservative estimate because it's not taking in the recreational fishery. Louisiana is only second to Alaska in terms of fisheries production for our nation.
What problems are invasive species causing in the Barataria-Terrebonne estuary? Animal and plant species that originate from outside a particular region are called exotic. An exotic organism is considered to be invasive when it becomes so numerous that it begins to cause damage to the ecology, the economy, or to human health. Most people in southern Louisiana are familiar with the nutria, the most visible and obvious of invasive species in the estuary. Originally imported from South America for their once valuable fur, nutria now cause outright destruction of the wetlands as they eat marsh plants all the way down to the roots, exposing the soils to increased erosion. The Barataria-Terrebonne system is the unfortunate home to many other invasive animals, including birds, fish, insects, mollusks, and even Australian spotted jellyfish. But it's invasive plants that pose perhaps the gravest threat to our estuary. State and federal agencies spend millions annually in an attempt to control invasive aquatic plants such as water hyacinth, salvinia, and hydrilla. Often, these plants grow so thick that they clog intake pipes for industry and drinking water, block navigation and recreational boating, and alter the natural community of plants and animals. Once invasive species become established, they are nearly impossible to eradicate. But everyone can help efforts to control them and to prevent future invasions by carefully removing aquatic plants from boats and trailers before launching in a new area, by learning about native plants and using them instead of exotics for gardening and landscaping, and by never, ever releasing live exotic plants or animals into the wild. How rapidly are Louisiana's coastal wetlands turning to open water? From 1932 to 2000, coastal Louisiana has lost 1,900 square miles of land, roughly an area the size of Delaware. Louisiana has lost up to 40 square miles of marsh annually for several decades, which is about 80% of the nation's annual coastal wetlands loss. This loss is at an average rate of an acre, about a football field, every 38 minutes. How much industry does Port Fourchon currently support?
Over the last decade, Port Fourchon has grown tremendously, and largely because of the deepwater drilling activity in the Gulf of Mexico. It has expanded immensely over these last 10 years since Congress passed the Deepwater Royalty Relief Act. What that has done is made us the focal point of drilling activity in the Gulf. Over 50% of all of the rigs that are being serviced in the entire U.S. Gulf of Mexico are being serviced by Port Fourchon. We handle a huge amount of tonnage. Over 40 million tons of cargo are moved in and out. Over 1,200 trucks a day move to this port down LA1 to support the port in bringing the widgets and gadgets necessary for the oil and gas fields in the Gulf to function properly. All these things play a large role in this country getting the energy that it needs.
What are some coastal restoration techniques?
There are many different things we can do in the name of restoration, such things as shoreline protection strategies, vegetative plantings, freshwater diversions, or sediment diversions, and a lot of other different things. Those are just examples. Shoreline protection, we would apply that in areas where we need to protect the shoreline. We might want to protect the shoreline of a barrier island from the waves crashing in from the Gulf of Mexico. And so there are many different shoreline protection strategies that we want to use there. Vegetative plantings, those are usually done in areas where we're trying to stabilize a system. Maybe we're trying to stabilize a new landmass that we built, maybe a new area of marsh or a new ridge. And so we would plant things, kind of give nature a head start. Or we might want to do vegetative plantings only to enhance a habitat. You know, anything that would improve or maintain or stabilize a system, that's where we want to employ those techniques. Freshwater diversions, diversions in general are protective strategies, water diversions. You put water over a system just to keep it healthy, to protect it, to keep it there. And you would use small diversions to sustain. Large diversions can be used to sustain and protect, but also have the ability to move sediments because they're big, there's a lot of energy. The quick water movement keeps that sediment suspended, and you can actually build land, but it takes a long time to build that land. It depends how much sediment you have in your water to begin with. Sediment diversions would actually be a diversion maybe where we would harvest the riverbeds or offshore deposits with dredges, and we would use these sediments that we collect to move through a pipe to place exactly where we want them to build new land masses. You can build marshes, you can build ridges, or barrier islands. So when we talk about restoration, we are talking about a whole host of possibilities that can be used. You just have to pick the right one to apply in the right circumstance.